webinar, so I'll be going into that as well. First updates, as Keesman mentioned, there's only two main updates. C.A.R. has increased its dues by $6 from $231 last year to $237 this year. Nothing much has changed substantively, right? The Realtor Action Assessment is still $69. The Realtor Action Assessment and the Realtor Action Fund disclosure paragraphs are same. We've had that reviewed with outside counsel. And as always, refer to the 2025 dues billing template that will be available after this webinar later today. I'll have to confirm with Keesman on that, but sometime after this webinar. Oops. Okay. And I just wanted to go over some of the helpful tools that we will be providing, just going down the line. Of course, we have the dues billing template. We have a dues billing compliance checklist to make sure nothing was left out of your dues bill, a dues billing annotations document to explain each section of the template, and a memo on local lobbying expenditures. And again, these will be available sometime after the webinar. Okay. Another reminder, compliance requirements we discussed today apply to all formats. It's not just your paper bills, emailed bills, online dues billing portal, your NERDS e-commerce bill. They must all comply. And another reminder, C.A.R. has to review and approve all formats before your dues bill go out to your members. And it takes around 5 to 7 days after you submit your dues bill. So keep that in mind. I've included the link here where you can submit those, I'm going to call them draft bills, but these PowerPoint slides will also be provided after, so no need to take notes on the nitty-gritty details. Next, I want to go over political contributions. There are two types, right? I've addressed them in the prior slide, but we have the Realtor Action Assessment and the Realtor Action Fund. I'll be referring to them by their acronyms, but RAA is a $69 mandatory assessment that is deposited into C.A.R.'s political action committees. Even though it's a mandatory, members can select to have 69 deposited into C.A.R.'s general fund instead. This is what we call an opt-over. Not very common, but if you have members calling about that, please let us know and we could go over the specifics then. Next, the RAF is entirely voluntary, right? And we have to remind our members of that. Even though they're voluntary, they're very important because they help promote realtor interest to C.A.R.'s lobbying efforts. So our two main political contribution types here. I'm going to start with the RAA requirements. The RAA has to be on the state allocation line, explicitly identified as Realtor Action Assessment or by its acronym if there's limited space. On the state allocation line, you need to have an asterisk or another symbol of your choice right next to RAA to reference the RAA disclosure paragraph. In the RAA disclosure paragraph, I know many of you are familiar with it. We have to take it verbatim from the 2025 dues billing template. There was no update, so as Keesman mentioned, minimal changes, but we have to remember, right? And again, the RAA symbol that you use has to reference the RAA paragraph. And for paper bills, the RAA disclosure paragraph must be on the face of the bill. And for your online portal, it has to be on the same screen that the RAA is referenced. I'll get into the RAF requirements next. First, they have to be written on their own line with the dues billing statement. And as I mentioned before, RAF has to be above the line. And above the line really is 5 requirements. First, you have to explicitly state that the RAF is voluntary or optional. You can do this by using the terms optional voluntary next to RAF, or as we did here, use a symbol and cite to optional voluntary somewhere in the dues bill. The next requirement is that the RAF amount has to be either $49 or $148. There are legal reasons that we have these amounts set, so it's one or the other, but the amount itself cannot be changed. The third requirement, the RAF amount has to be above the total amount due. As we see on the slide here, it's part of the calculation. It's referenced in the total amount due. But again, this is where we get the name above the line. The fourth requirement, members must have only one option to remove the RAF contribution from the total due. Although it's voluntary, the default would be RAF is already included in the total amount, and there's just one step to remove it. So it's a twofold requirement, right? Just to give you an example, for online billing, this means RAF is already checked off for reference as a default, and there's only one screen to uncheck the box. Just to go over a couple examples where we wouldn't be compliant, if the member has to check a box to contribute, that would be the opposite of the default that I mentioned. So that would be non-compliant. Or if the member has to fill in an amount or the contribution, even if RAF is set as a default, that would also be non-compliant because there's an extra step involved. And the last requirement is that the RAF has to have a symbol referencing the RAF disclosure paragraph. Here we use the double asterisk only because the RAA took the first single asterisk. But again, a corresponding symbol referencing the RAF disclosure paragraph, which has to be on the face of the paper bill or on the same screen if it's on an online bill. I'm going to go into the RAF disclosure language. This is also required by law, hasn't been updated this year, but there are two exceptions in terms of revisions. The first thing is you have to reference the 49 or 148 accurately. Like I said, those amounts are predetermined, but one of those numbers have to be picked, and your disclosure paragraph should reference that amount you've selected. The second potential revision would be where the disclosures and notices are in your dues bill, right? So for example, if it's on a separate paper bill, a separate insert for a paper bill on the same screen for online billing, or if it's an attachment to an email, you just want to update that last sentence to reflect where you can find additional information. Other mandatory disclosures, you must state political contributions aren't deductible as charitable contributions, and this language must be on the face of the bill in at least the same size font as the billing language and amounts, and the disclosure language has to be in its own paragraph. So for electronic bills, the required language must be on the same screen as the dues billing language and amounts. Optional disclosures, although not required, we highly recommend that you advise your members that a portion of their dues bill is deductible as a business expense, and if needed, they should consult their tax professional regarding those deductions. This language is in the template, and it's on the slide here. Next, I want to talk about C.A.R.'s Housing Affordability Fund. The HAF is a nonprofit fund dedicated to addressing the housing affordability crisis. HAF promotes home ownership, and we urge you to include HAF contributions on your dues bill, although it's voluntary. It serves a very important purpose. And a couple of reminders, your dues bill must state that the donations to HAF are voluntary and refer to the template for that language as well. Another mandatory disclosure for charitable contributions. For HAF and any other charities that you include, you must inform members that their charitable contribution and their tax deductible. The deductibility language should match the size of the billing language and must be on the face of the bill on the same screen if you're doing a billing portal. And this language is also in the 2025 dues template. Another mandatory disclosure, because your dues bill includes non-deductible political contributions, you're required to present a breakdown of the estimated non-deductible portion of the dues used for lobbying by C.A.R., N.A.R., and by your local association. This is what Keesman referred to earlier, one of the only changes for this coming year. We provided the N.A.R. and C.A.R. breakdowns, both the percentage and the amount in the template, but keep in mind, the local association has to add their breakdown, and we do have a helpful guide on that, as I mentioned in the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation. Just keep in mind, If you don't have any lobbying amounts, you still need to enter 0 for both the percentage and the amounts. And the language must appear on the face of the bill in at least the same size font as the billing language and amounts. And for electronic bills, the disclosure must be on the same screen as the dues billing language and amounts. One reminder before I go into the next slide, this graph, if you will, NAR, C.A.R. local breakdown also shows up in the legal notices and disclosures. So make sure you update that as well. Again, NAR, C.A.R. comes by default in the template, but update the disclosure language if you include anything for the local association. Just one thing I want to point out, I know we've had questions on this for several years now. For the NAR percentage and amount, you have to keep in mind the percentage that we provide in the template is based off the combination of the NAR allocation and the consumer advertising assessment. So the total of 201 is what we use in calculating the percentage. I know NAR and maybe some local associations, they may want to separate the NAR allocation and the assessment. So if you do, which is fine, just make sure to update that NAR percentage. It's going to be reduced, right? If you go with the 156 strictly allocation portion. Okay. And next, I want to talk about the legal notices and disclosures. I know I went over several mandatory and voluntary disclosures. Keep in mind, the mandatory disclosures, you have to have the most current legal notices and disclosures. I have a link up here that goes over what they are. Again, we haven't updated it and it comes standard in the 2025 template, but just a reminder, every year you want to keep in mind that it may be updated and you always want to check here before you submit your drafts. Next, I want to talk about where we put those legal notices and disclosures. Just going down by format. For paper bills, it could be printed on the back of the bill or included in a separate insert. For email bills, the full disclosure can be the email itself or attached as a separate link or a separate document. And for online bills, the disclosures can be on the main page of the dues bill or included in a link on that main page. Additional requirements you need to be aware of. If your dues bill allows for installment payments, you have to remember to disclose which portion of those installment payments include RAA and RAF. For instance, if political contributions must be deposited into the political action committees, they have to be done in 10 days or 30 days of receipt, depending on the amount, right? So we need disclosure on which installment payments include RA and RAF amounts, so we could comply with those requirements. There may be additional requirements too for installment payments, but it's just not a common option. So if this applies to you and your association, please reach out to us and we could go over the specifics in detail. Other compliance requirements, all political contributions must be in the name of the person actually paying and must be tracked accurately. A common misconception that I want to address here, a broker cannot pay on behalf of members in their office. Again, it has to come from the named individual themselves. Also, all dues along with accurate records, including name, NERDS ID, and the amount paid, must be submitted to C.A.R. on the 15th and last day of each month. So you have twice a month, right? Great. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back to Keesman to go over membership and financial records. Whenever you're ready, Keesman.
Perfect. Thank you, Joseph. Great job. So I just want to cover a few things regarding the dues billing process. If you can go to the next page, Joseph. So the dues billing audit process actually starts today, which means once we are done with today's training session, you'll be in a position to actually pass the audit process, right? And so you can start updating your dues billing invoices and online portals and submit them for review, again, starting today. As you know, C.A.R. must review all associations' dues billing invoices and online portals before you make them available to your members. I know this can be time consuming, but this protects C.A.R. and the local association. Next screen. All right, so let's talk about the key points for completing the audit form. So what's important? So you want to ensure that the person completing the form is the one responsible for submitting dues billing information, because that's who Lisa Edwards will be communicating with. We want to make sure that Lisa is communicating with the right person, right? Next screen. So it's going to be important to provide the correct user credentials for your online portal. So as a reminder, you want to ensure that you provide the correct username and password for your online portals. Case sensitivity matters. If the username or password is case sensitive, please clearly indicate this when providing the information on the form. And then last, you want to double check the credentials. Providing incorrect login details can delay the audit review process. I know you want to get your invoices out to your members as soon as possible. So this step is very important. Next screen. As you know, we will have members that pay their dues when they decide to transfer. Wait, which screen is this? I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. So as you know, we will have members that pay their dues when they decide to transfer before you upload the financial records to M1, right? We actually had a question come from, or the same issue actually come from a local association yesterday. So I'm glad this is something that I'm discussing today. So what happens if a member transfers to another association before their financial record is uploaded to M1? Well, the member's record must be transferred back to the original association. This means the original association will need to transfer the record back to their association. The financial record must then be added to M1 before the record can be transferred back to the new association. Next screen. So these are the steps that you must follow in order to resolve this issue. So again, the original association will transfer the member's record back to their association. The original association must upload the financial record to M1. C.A.R.'s finance department will process the financial record. Once the financial record has been processed, the record can then be transferred back to the new association. This process should take less than 10 minutes to complete, as long as both associations are communicating with one another. So that is extremely important, that both associations are communicating so that we can make this process go as quickly as possible, because we don't want to do anything that's going to impact the members' access to zip forms, right? Next screen. So why is this important? Well, it's important because if these steps are not taken, the monthly reconciliation report and the BCT will show that the new association owes dues for this member. So the best practice is, when dues are collected, the financial record must be uploaded to M1, and the dues money must be submitted to C.A.R. within 15 days. Next screen. So here are some takeaways from what we just covered. So always upload the financial record to M1 promptly when dues are collected. Number two, you want to ensure that the payment is sent through e-commerce within 15 days. Three, delays in processing can lead to issues with member dues transfers, members getting access to zip forms, and inaccurate dues reporting, which is one of the things that we want to try to prevent. So this whole process is extremely important. Next screen. So as you prepare to get your dues billing invoices and online portals updated for 2025, we have a dues billing compliance resource page specifically for local associations, where you can access all of your dues billing information and supporting documents. I have included a link on this slide that will take you directly to this resource page. And this page is already updated as of today. Next screen. As you know, C.A.R. has increased the dues by $6. So as you prepare to update your systems with the 2025 dues prorations, please make sure that your system contains the following dues amount for 2025. Also, please make sure your vendors have the updated information as well. So when they are updating your system, they are using the current dues information. Next screen. So this page just contains additional dues and fees for 2025. So the late fee will remain the same at $50. The late fee for C.A.R. goes into effect on March 1st. The new member fee is remaining the same at $200. Also, the non-member fee for C.A.R. is $237, and the non-member fee for N.A.R. is $156. Also, the non-member fee is never prorated. Affiliate membership. So affiliate membership dues has increased by $6 as well. So the fee for 2025 for affiliate, excuse me, for affiliate members is $168. Also, affiliate members are not members of N.A.R., so they are not billed for N.A.R. dues. They are only required to pay C.A.R. and local dues only. Next screen.
Great. Thank you, Keisman.
Thank you. So at this time, we are going to, before I move on, I just want to mention that this year, we're not hosting a separate webinar for Rapatoni users, but Rapatoni has created an instructional video for their customers, and they have included the supporting documents for your reference. All of this information can be found on the dues billing resource page as well, and you can find it under the Rapatoni section. So it's already been posted, and so it's available for you as of right now. And so at this time, we will take any questions that you might have. If you can close this, thank you, Joseph. So do we have any questions for me or Joseph?
Well,
I mean,
Keisman?
yes.
Hi, this is Howie from San Diego. I hope
Hey,
all.
Howie.
Hey, question. One of the questions we got last year in the dues, and it's probably very simple, but if they want the fees allocated differently, you must submit it in writing. Is it possible to put the email address or where to send that in writing? They kept asking us, and then we would ask. So anyway, if that's possible.
Yeah, you know what I'll do is I'm going to reach out to our finance department just so that I can get the instructions so that we can also send that out to the associations today. And Joseph, if you want to chime in regarding that question as well, but I just wanted to make sure that we also provide the instructions, and that will come from the finance department.
Yeah, no, nothing on my end to add. Thank you, Keisman.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
He's been Charles here with San Diego as well.
Hey, Charles.
So the question I had, and maybe I missed it, the lobbying amounts for this year for C.A.R. and for NAR. Did I miss that
Yes.
part?
Yes, Joseph did cover that. So they have changed for 2025. We will have that information posted. It's actually posted on CAR.org now,
Okay.
so you can actually find it on the dues compliance resource page as of right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Keisman, if I can, you mentioned that Rapatoni had some assistance and whatnot. Do you know if there's any resources as such for Ramco?
You know what? We don't have any step-by-step instructions from I'm sorry, from Ramco. And I will say the reason why we have information from Rapatoni is because we are still customers of Rapatoni, but we're moving to a new membership system. And so in the past, they've always done a dues billing webinar for their customers because most of the local associations were using Rapatoni. Now that we're no longer going to be a customer, most likely starting in 2025, we're reliant on the vendors to actually set up this information for their customers. So I think in the future, we're going to start reaching out to all of the vendors so that they can provide their customers with the dues billing information, similar to how Rapatoni has done it. They've actually created a step-by-step instructional video along with all of the supporting documentation that the associations will need to copy and paste into their system. And so we will make sure in the future that we do the same, that we reach out to those vendors so that they can do the same for their customers.
Thank you, Keisman.
Sue, I see your hand raised, but before we take that question, there's a question in the chat from Jenny. Is it confirmed that NAR is not raising dues for 2025?
That is correct.
Yes, and it's on the NAR website as well. Confirmed it hasn't been raised, as Keisman mentioned. Thank you for the question, Jenny.
So my question, so Keisman, you said, the legal language isn't going to be changed except for the numbers. There is a statement on the legal disclaimer that at the bottom about the the real estate magazine, the $6. And I heard that is going away, that $6. And I'm just wondering, somebody knows to get rid of that very last sentence.
Yes, we will get that confirmed. Are you aware of that, Joseph?
Oh, not on my end. I actually heard that from another member as well. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Sue. But we'll confirm on our ends and just update as appropriate.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, this is Iqbal. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Keisman, yes, we need to talk to our legal department. Definitely next year we don't have a magazine, so this has to come up.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get
Thank
that
you.
taken care of today.
Hey, Kimberly asked a question on the chat as well. She asked if members want to make a donation of $100 for the RAF, can the contribution be changed? And the answer would be no. Unfortunately, 49 and 148 are predetermined and there are legal reasons for it. So it's one of those two amounts they would have to select from.
So that's on the actual dues billing statement and also within the online portal. But if a member is actually going to pay their dues through, let's just say, e-commerce, they do have the option to increase their contribution. So that option is available. But I agree with Joseph, for your dues billing statements and your online portals, 49 and 148 needs to be on the form. It can't be 49 and then 100 or 100 and then 148. It has to be 49 and 148. But when the member is paying their dues, they can actually pay more or give more, donate more if they want to. Any other questions? I guess everybody is ready to get their dues billing statements updated, right? All right, well, I'm not going to make it uncomfortable. When it gets quiet like this, everybody is looking at each other like, okay, who's going to say something? So I guess I'll do it. No, but really, I'm glad you guys joined us today. I was a little nervous at first because I know we had another webinar that we showed was scheduled yesterday. And so our apologies for not taking that down any sooner, but I'm glad everybody was able to get the webinar that we had scheduled for today, because we have a nice group that came out today. So again, I just want to say thank you to Joseph and for presenting today, and for Peggy for being here. She's always our rock, and so I enjoy her being here. Again, this webinar will be posted on the dues billing resource page this afternoon. We're also going to include the PowerPoint presentation as well. Our team is getting prepared for Leadership Edge, so I'm hoping that we can get it posted as soon as possible. But if you don't see it by noon, it will be posted sometime today. And so there was a lot of information covered today. So if you have any questions that come up after this meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Remember, we are in this together. And so I just want to thank you again for being here, and have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Keith. Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.